Hello everyone and welcome to this week's Eddie Sutton Show. I'm Dean Blevins and we start with a triple dose of good news. Number one, the Cowboys back on the winning track. Number two, Byron Houston back. And most importantly, number three, the head coach Eddie Sutton is back. And Coach, great to see you.
It's good to be back, Dean, and I understand the show went well with Rob Evans. I knew it would, but gosh, I did get a little bit of a scare the other night after the Oklahoma game when I had some chest pains. I had a little numbness in my left arm. I felt faint. I was doing the post-game radio show with Tom, and I've always been quite healthy, and so they took me over to the hospital, Dr. Cooper, our team physician, and they ran some preliminary tests and thought that I had not had a heart attack, but my blood pressure was quite high. And so Sam Ernest, who is my doctor, came over, and he felt like that he would not allow me to go back on the court until we were sure there was no problem. So they did send me to Tulsa, had a complete battery of tests, came out of that with flying colors. Maybe I need to exercise a little more, maybe I need to cut down on some certain types of food. But I came back and I told the squad that, hey, I can really get after you now because I know I got a healthy heart and I don't have any problems. And so I guess it was just stress related in some way, but I do feel good. And I guess the thing that probably helped me more than anything was that great win over Nebraska last evening.
Coach, will any of this health matter have anything to do with your longevity coaching or your style of coaching?
I don't think so, because the doctor told me that for a man my age, I was in really good shape. So I'm going to continue to coach just like I've been coaching. And if it ever gets to a point where I do have a problem health-wise, I think it would be the wise thing to do is to step down, because basketball is a very emotional sport. All
right, we'll take a break. When we come back, highlights from Missouri and Nebraska. Stay with us on the Eddie Sutton Show. Welcome back to the program. First highlights, Coach, at Missouri, a very good basketball team, and you had only been back for a day, and you go up without Byron Houston, and of course, Missouri does not have its All-American in Anthony Peeler.
I really felt that the two teams were evenly matched with Peeler off the court and with Byron not playing, that it would be a very close game. We did not get very good play out of Bryant Reeves or Randy Davis, and we needed that in order to be in the ball game. There's a shot of Byron. He was a great cheerleader on the bench trying to cheer his teammates on. Didn't shoot it very well. Missouri is a good basketball team and a great ball club when Peeler's on the floor. I think we shot 39% for the game, and seemed like we were always trying to play catch up. There's one of Sean's three-pointers. He led our ball club with 16 points and hit 4 out of 6 from three-point range, and we were 8 out of 21, and that's one thing that kept us in the game. Binky Triplett hit a shot there, and we're getting better play out of some of our younger players. Terry Collins, Binky Triplett, Sean Pell. Milt played well in our game last night, and of course he's been playing pretty well all season long. Nice look there of Cornell Hatcher a moment ago, and he had an outstanding ball game last night. We'll see those highlights later, but he's certainly a quality player for you. Missouri hit 49% from the field and 19 out of 24 at the line, and Missouri is one of the top 10 teams in the country when Peeler's playing, and they had suspended him for one game because he'd missed some classes, and evidently that's a university rule that they have. You can see we made a rally and brought the game up to 45-45. That's Terry Collins hitting his only field goal to the ball game, and he's going to be a nice player as he gains more experience. There's Corey Williams hitting a three, and at that point, and I talked to Ted Owens, who used to coach University of Kansas earlier today, and he saw this game and he said he felt like when it got to 45 and we could shut them out maybe once, that we'd have a chance to go on a win. But that didn't happen, and they beat us 66-52. Ends up being a 14-point game, and Coach, it's a matter of confidence at this point. Team is not playing well. You've lost 5 of 6, but you come back. What did you do in terms of getting the team mentally ready to play against Nebraska, a good club? Well, you know, it's not like we were beaten by a bunch of poor teams. Right. This league is just something that I've never experienced before. There's not a weak team in the Big 8. Nebraska beat us in Lincoln to start us reeling. Then we came back and beat Kansas and went on that 2-game road trip. A little flat at Colorado, and they beat us 4. Go to Iowa State, and I felt that game probably took more out of us than anything because we had that ball game won about 6 or 7 times, made a couple of 3 bad errors, and they hit 24 out of 30 from the field. Remarkable shooting. Came back, played a good Oklahoma team, and Price had a great shooting evening. And then when that happens, even though you're playing good ball clubs and you do lose some confidence. And we felt like that after we went up to Missouri and we didn't play that well up there, that we needed to win against Nebraska. We did a lot of counseling with the players. We went back to the court and worked hard, corrected some of the mistakes. And I think the biggest thing that helped our ball club was the fact that Byron Houston was coming back, because he gives everybody a lot of confidence, and we'll talk more about that. But in our game with Nebraska last evening, we played as well as we played all season long. Great defense, good shot selection, didn't have the high percentage that maybe you'd like to have, but still shot 45%, forced them into 23 turnovers. And here you see the second basket of the game. Byron had hit a shot just before this. Sean runs through a pass, and we're up 4-0. They're playing zone, and we attacked the zone well. Sean on a good entry pass to Byron. I think Byron had 8 out of our first 10 points.
Hits his first 5 shots, ends up with 17 points and 8 rebounds. There you see Sean on the inside. This is the club coach that snapped your 20-game win streak, 20-0, and sweet revenge last night.
Well, and Nebraska was coming off 2 great victories.
Yeah.
A last-second shot in overtime over the University of Kansas, the team that's leading our league. And then they went into Ames and beat Iowa State and broke their home court winning streak. So they came in with a lot of confidence. But we did a much better job of attacking the zone. Good pass, Sean off to Byron into Randy Davis. And Randy Davis had a great game. 13 points, 13 rebounds. And that was very, very important on our win. Just before the half, we set up a play. Corey Williams drove the pocket of the zone, dished it off, and Sean hit a 3-pointer. Second half, we ran an out-of-bounds play here and back screen for Byron on an alley-oop. And even though he wasn't at full speed, Byron Houston played an outstanding ball game. And I didn't think I'd ever see Byron play 20 minutes of basketball and never commit a foul, but he did that last evening.
There's an assist from Cornell Hatcher. He had 5 of those 6 steals for Cornell on the night.
Cornell is very, very good off the ball and makes a lot of steals and gets his hands on a lot of basketballs. And I felt that he played one of the best games that he's played in a long while last evening.
Speaking of steals, and there's a sign, we're back. Speaking of steals, Alexander now leading Oklahoma State career steals, 159 for Darwin, who knocks down the tray.
Well, Darwin played very well last night. We're going to talk a little bit more about that later, because he won't be playing with us when we play Kansas next Monday. Block shot on the part of Triplett. Davis rebounds it, puts it back.
And there's your final, 72-51. And Byron Houston, what was it? Tom Dorado told us 28 treatments, 35 hours. And that's only in 1 week. Byron was hurt, of course, on Wednesday.
We have a lot of people to thank to get Byron back. Certainly Joe Dunnigan, our trainer, he worked with Byron. Leroy Youster, our strength coach. Doc Cooper helped out. Dr. Grana came over the day before we played Nebraska and gave him the go-ahead and said, hey, you got the green light to play. It's going to hurt a little bit, but the mobility of the ankle, if it's taped well, you can go out there. And like I said, just his presence puts a lot of pressure on the part of the other ball club and gives our team a lot of confidence. And gosh, Byron played like an All-American last night, and it's good to have him back.
Well, he must have come on, because I know no one was real optimistic a couple of days back, but he came on strong certainly last night. Did you expect him to be that physically ready to play?
I didn't think there was any way, because he'd only practiced 30 minutes from the time he hurt his ankle against Oklahoma. And Dr. Grana, when he came over there, and really he put him through a lot of tests, and he was amazed at how quickly that ankle had healed. The swelling had gone down, and again, thanks to our training staff for what they were able to do. And for Byron, going into that training room, you spend 35 hours in a training room, but he got a lot of studying done, because I saw him several times. He had a book in his hand when he was in the whirlpool. So we're glad to have him back. All
right, we'll take a break. When we come back, more talk and more video on Byron Houston and the rest of the Cowboys after this. And, Coach, our play of the week centers around Byron Houston.
Well, Tom Dorado, I think, helped put this together. And we're going to show what Byron means to the ball. We already talked about the confidence level, but you see him in there posting up, putting a lot of pressure on the defense. Good lead pass in there. Strong move, power play up in the basket. Here you see him shooting a 15-footer. This is against Nebraska last evening. You can see him favoring the ankle just a little bit. Watch this here. 3 blocks for the game, 17 points, 8 rebounds, only 1 turnover in 31 minutes. You can see him getting positioned here. Strongest basketball player that I've ever coached. You get the ball to him around the basket, he's hard to handle. There's a power dunk nice head and shoulder fake and a dribble to the basket and a nice play. So, again, we're glad to have him back.
All that on one leg. Byron Houston now 217 blocks at Oklahoma State, #1 on the career charts here, #2 in Big 8 history. 30-second break. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Going into last night's ball game with Nebraska, one of the keys was containing Jamar Johnson, an outstanding guard for Nebraska, Coach.
We felt that if we could take him out of the ball game and really make it tough on him, because he is the quarterback. He was runner-up to Damon Bailey for Player of the Year in Indiana, and he's a very fine basketball player. And you see right here, Corey Williams, that's the way you start your defense on the point of attack, the guy with the basketball. Make him start that offense with his back to the basket. Here you see he gave the ball up, but watch Corey. He challenges his shot, no foul, good block off by Byron, and here we go off on a fast break. We're going to look at this again, and we'll slow it down, but you can see this is what you call make a dribbler zigzag. Keep between him and his basket. Harass him to the point that it's hard for him to have vision of what he wants to do in starting his offense. That's great one-on-one defense by Corey, and he's as good as I've ever had in all the years I've coached in covering a man with a basketball. And we emphasize, Corey, you got to take Johnson out of the game. He had 25 points in the first game against us. Last night he only had 9. And Corey wasn't the only one. We had some other people on him, but he had the main responsibility.
Well, and also, I guess the point that we need to bring up at this point is at the end of the ball game, Jamar Johnson and Darwin Alexander, little fisticuffs. Bring us up to date on that, Coach.
Well, it's too bad that it happened because the game was already over. It was just a couple of minutes to go. And what happened after looking at the film, and it was right in front of our bench, Johnson was covering Darwin and had a hold of his jersey, holding him. And with 3 officials and as many fouls as we've had called this year off the ball, it would have seemed to me that someone would have seen it, but they didn't see it. And you see Darwin trying to knock his hands off of Johnson to get him off. And then finally he pushes him away, and Johnson comes at him, and they both swing punches. And it's just tragic because I know Nebraska needs Johnson when they play Colorado on Saturday, and we certainly need Darwin Monday night at Lawrence when we take on the Jayhawks. But both of them will be suspended. The rule says that anytime you're involved in fisticuffs, you are suspended for 1 ball game. And if it happens again to either player the rest of the season, then they're gone for the year. So I feel for both those young men, but hopefully they'll learn from it and they'll keep their composure. And when they're both fiery competitors, and it's going to happen in a ball game, but hopefully it won't happen to any of our players again.
I know you talked to Darwin late last night to make sure things were fine with him. What do you do in terms of your roster, Coach, to compensate for Darwin being out the game?
Well, the one thing we'll have to do is to get somebody else ready to start in his position, and that'll probably either be Cornell Hatcher or Milt Brown in all likelihood, or possibly Randy Davis. Along with that suspension, Darwin Alexander can't even be on the bench, so he won't even be traveling with us when we go to Kansas on Sunday. All
right, we'll take a break, come back, look at the Big 8 schedule, Big 8 standings, and talk a little more with Coach Sutton after this. It is conceivable all Big 8 teams will be in postseason play, Coach. That's never happened in the history of Division I basketball. Let's take a look at the Big 8 standings as they stand this evening. Kansas on top, looking good at 9-2 and 21-3, and I'll let you take it from there.
I think University of Kansas is in great position to win the Big 8. It would seem to me, unless they just completely fold, that no one's going to be able to catch them. Excellent basketball team, one of the best in the country, but those are remarkable records. Toughest league I've ever coached in this season. And what we've seen happen right now, the records are 14-30. 14 teams have won on the road in Big 8 play. They've lost 30 times. The last 2 years, it's been 16-40, 19-37. At one point, early in the year, it was 6-3 in favor of road victories. So tough way to win in this league on the road. And we've got a tough assignment against Kansas, and we'll talk about that a little bit later.
Seeding for Big 8 tournament, which is coming up, is so important. Let's take a look at the games coming up this week in the Big 8 Conference. On Saturday, Colorado at Nebraska, Iowa State in Norman, Missouri at Kansas State, and you're in Lawrence on Monday the 2nd.
It's a nationally televised game on ESPN, and then Wednesday, Colorado comes here for our last game. And guys, that's going to be a sad evening when we have to say goodbye to those 5 seniors. Oklahoma's at Missouri, K-State at Nebraska, and Kansas at Iowa State. And then the last weekend before we start Big 8 play, we'll have that next week on our show.
Coach, we're talking about the Big 8 postseason tournament. I've had the question posed many times. I'll put you on the spot. Is Kemper Arena an unfair advantage for Kansas and Missouri?
Well, let's put it this way. I'll throw right back at you. It'd be like us playing down here in Oklahoma City. Would we have an advantage, and would the University of Oklahoma have an advantage, or if we had the tournament over in Tulsa? Yes, there is an advantage for the Tigers and the Jayhawks, but it's a great show, and the people of Kansas City have put on a remarkable event there. This year, it's going to be the best it's ever been. It's going to be almost like a regional tournament in the NCAA, because I think every game is going to be up for grabs, and it's like starting a whole new season over, and I think all the coaches will be telling their ball clubs that, and the teams that probably aren't assured of an NCAA bid are going to be telling them, hey, we can get hot and we can win 3 games, and we can go to the NCAA too.
Time for our weekly feature on the history of basketball. You've heard of the NA. Coach, I keep hearing the three-point line, 19-9 now, will be moved back to the international line. What do you think?
Well, I have mixed emotions about it. I was on the rules committee for 5 years and was a part of the change of putting the clock in. That was good for basketball. There were some of us that were a little leery of the three-point shot, but I think it's been a great rule for basketball, not only in college but for high school as well. Many of us feel like that the line might be a little close, and that maybe we ought to move it back 9 inches to the international rule. The rules meeting will take place in Minneapolis at the Final Four. They only meet one time a year, and this is when rules are changed, and I'm sure that will be up for discussion. And I think if you were to poll college coaches around the country, you would probably have a pretty even vote on that. I'm not sure. I mean, it's really a thrilling part of the game, and to move it back, I think maybe would give you better balance between your inside game and your perimeter game. There are a lot of guys now that shoot three-pointers that maybe aren't really what you would call legitimate three-point shooters, but it's a good rule, and it'll be something that will be discussed by the Rules Committee.
Coach, I know everyone is happy you are back and feeling well. A great comment, an analogy that a comment you made about Lou Holtz. Take it over, because the football analogy was perfect.
Well, Lou Holtz one time told me at Arkansas, he says, I don't know how you all coach basketball. He said, it's like having the ball inside your 10-yard line all night long, and there's a lot of truth in that.
Well, good to see you. Congratulations, and I'm glad things are back on track with you and your club.
Well, thank you, Dean. It's a pleasure to be back and always be here with you.
Great. For Eddie Sutton, I'm Dean Blevins. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week on The Eddie Sutton Show.